Okay, I'll call the meeting to order at 7:01. Can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Allred,
Present.
Mr. Andreessen, Mr. Fell,
Here.
Mr. Rose,
Here.
Ms. Sims, and Ms. Yu.
Here.
Okay, so it looks like we have a quorum. Changes to the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda?
I was going to propose that we swap the preliminary planned unit development and the rezoning cases, or in the rezoning case. I feel like the rezoning case might make sense to have come right after the text amendment discussion.
Okay. Do we need to make an amendment for that, or?
I think there should be a motion, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a motion, yeah. That sounds fine to me. So does anyone want to make a motion to swap the order of the cases so that we take the two cases related to the CMU Campus Mixed Use District first?
I will move we do so.
Okay, so we have a motion by Mr. Fell. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Rose. Is a voice vote okay for this, or?
That's fine.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that passes. Okay, approval of the minutes. So we have 3 minutes that we need to approve. We'll take these one at a time. The first is approval of amending the minutes from the December 7th, 2023 regular meeting of the Plan Commission. This is being amended with some language that's meant to remedy a violation of the Open Meetings Act that occurred during that meeting. Is there any discussion on those particular minutes, or do we have a motion? Or did you want me to read any more detail with that, or?
Yeah, I mean, if you would like to, yeah, I suppose that might be good just to get it into the record.
Okay, let me find. Okay, so for those meetings, staff's recommending that the minutes be amended by adding the following. During the recess, the group discussed the nature and efficacy of the proposed motion. No notes were taken by the commission or staff during the recess, and the recessed gathering was not recorded. At no time during the recess was any vote or final action taken by the commission on any matter.
I move we adopt the minutes as amended.
Okay, so we have a motion by Mr. Rose. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Fell. And we can do a voice vote for these two, right?
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes. Next, we have the minutes from the March 13th, 2025 special meeting of the Plan Commission. Do we have a motion for those or any discussion on those? We're reaching back in time with these minutes, I realize. Need a motion.
I move the meeting minutes to be
Approved?
approved.
Okay. We have a motion by Ms. Yu. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Rose. Any discussion on the motion? If not, we'll do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, that passes. And then finally, we have the minutes of the regular meeting of the Plan Commission on April 17th, 2025. Do we have any discussion, or do we have a motion on that?
I'll move to approve the minutes of
So we-
April 17th.
We have a motion by Mr. Fell. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Rose. Any discussion on that motion? If not, we'll do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? All right, that passes. Thanks. Communications. Do we have any communications?
Yeah, we received a few communications. The one listed in your packet was, I believe that went to Plan Commission and City Council and the mayor. It was an email from a concerned citizen regarding Woodlawn Cemetery. They were just asking if the city could do something to help out in some way with upkeep of the cemetery. I did want to point out, just because it's worth pointing out, that cemetery is actually in the county. It's not within city limits, so I'm not really sure what the city's role could be in maintaining that cemetery in some way.
Okay, thanks for clarifying that.
The other two, the other two communications we received were regarding cases tonight. One was, one was from Laura Matos from JSM Living, and that was to support the text amendment case tonight, 2509 T25. And then the other we received was regarding the planned unit development case, 2510-PUD-25, and that letter was in opposition to approving that.
All right, thank you. So that brings us to continued public hearings. We have no continued public hearings, and we have no old business. That brings us to new public hearings. So we'll start with plan case number 2509 T25, a request by the zoning administrator to amend table 6-3 of the zoning ordinance to establish lower maximum building heights in the CMU campus mixed-use zoning district when located south of Green Street and west of Lincoln Avenue. We haven't had a plan commission for a while, so I'll go over, for everyone's benefit, how the hearing will proceed. First, we'll have a presentation from staff explaining the background of the case, the standards that apply, and staff's assessment of how the applicable standards have been met or not by the applicant. And finally, staff's recommendation to Plan Commission. Then we'll have a chance for the commission to ask staff questions about the case, followed by an opportunity for the petitioner, in this case, staff, but there will actually be a petitioner with the subsequent cases to address the commission if they want. After that, we'll open it up for the public input portion of the hearing, where members of the public will be able to address the commission about the case. After that, there'll be a chance for the petitioner and staff to address the commission if needed in response to comments from the public. Then we'll close public input portion and move into discussion amongst the commission members and possibly entertain a motion to vote. All right, so there's a staff presentation, I assume.
Okay, yeah, let's get started. Okay, so this is a text amendment proposed by me, the zoning administrator, and this would set different maximum building heights for the campus mixed-use zoning district, and that would match the intent of the Imagine Urbana comprehensive plan. Imagine Urbana distinguishes between two different areas that are labeled University Neighborhood, so you'll see the map on the screen. So it shows that areas north of Green Street are appropriate for having buildings taller than 5 stories. That includes sort of this area here is all campus mixed-use zoning. That's the only area with campus mixed-use zoning currently in the city. But this also identifies this area down here where Gregory Place is, and where like the Canopy Club and some other like Bread Co. It identifies that area as being appropriate for buildings up to 5 stories. The proposed amendment would be to align the campus mixed-use regulations with respect to height with the place types map in Imagine Urbana. And we had already identified this as a potential incremental change to the zoning ordinance that is called for by Little Move 2.2 of Imagine Urbana. which is to make sort of incremental changes to the zoning ordinance. We had identified this as a potential text amendment, and then we had a recent inquiry by Fairlawn Capital, which you'll be hearing about later tonight, and they wanted to redevelop a few parcels on Oregon Street, and so it made this text amendment a priority at this time because this text amendment would make their rezoning and make their plans more feasible. The regulations in the CMU, Campus Mixed Use District, align well with the type of development that's envisioned in university neighborhood place types in Imagine Urbana. And again, that includes this area already zoned CMU, but it also includes this area with Gregory Place down there. But at this point, it would be inappropriate to, say, rezone any parcels in this southern area to CMU because currently it allows buildings up to 120 feet tall. The proposed text amendment would change the height down there. So specifically, this text amendment would do three things. So first, it would maintain the 120-foot height for CMU areas north of Green Street, so on this map, north of Green Street, and then west of Lincoln. Lincoln's right here. So anything north of this point and west of Lincoln would still have the 120-foot height limit. And then for areas south and west of Green and Lincoln, so basically this area, most of the area south and west of that intersection is already university, so it's not going to be rezoned to CMU. But just for ease of the text amendment, we wrote it that way. So for areas sort of in this area, it would be 65 feet and 5 stories max. And then one other thing that we're proposing is to set a height limit of 40 feet and 3 stories for anywhere else that campus mixed use zoning would occur. Specifically, I'm thinking that there are very few, but there are a few parcels on the east side of Lincoln Avenue that might be appropriate for the CMU district. It aligns with the intent in the description of the neighborhood 2 place type, which is this area over here. But it wouldn't be appropriate to have things, say, taller than 3 stories there. There are some buildings that are about 40 feet tall there now, so that's why we proposed 40 feet instead of 35, which is the standard in almost every area of the city. So that's a change I'd be willing or open to discussing as well. But let me get to the actual text changes. So how we would do this, or the proposed changes here, really would just be amending Table 6.3, which are development regulations by zoning district. So we would add sort of this the 3 different height limits in feet here, and then we would add a note down below that gets into more detail. So it would just maintain the maximum height of 120 feet that currently exists for areas north of Green Street, west of Lincoln, and then in areas south of Green and west of Lincoln, the maximum height would be 65 feet with a maximum of 5 stories. And then in all other areas, the maximum height is 40 feet with a maximum of 3 stories. Now, the way I arrived at, especially the 65-foot number, when we initially came up with the regulations for the campus mixed-use district, I spoke to some architects, and we were trying to, or I was trying to figure out what a good maximum height would be if we were trying to target, at that time it was 10 stories. And we came up with, or no, sorry, actually we were going less than 120 feet. We were thinking about 75 or 85 feet. And I can't remember the number of stories on that. I think it was 7. But based on those conversations and some calculations just of different heights of stories and buildings, it seemed like 65 would be appropriate for 5 stories. What that allows you to do, what I think is especially good with that, is it allows you to build your first story taller, which is much more usable, especially for business type uses. If you've ever been in a restaurant that has like a 9-foot ceiling, it feels cramped. You want your first story to be taller, so that gives some flexibility for the designer to build something taller. You could definitely set a height lower than 65 feet and still get to 5 stories, but I think that just constrains the designers. But so that's kind of how I arrived at those numbers. But this is the proposal. It would align with Big Move 2 of Imagine Urbana, which is to align the zoning ordinance with Imagine Urbana, and Little Move 2, which is to implement incremental steps to address immediate concerns prior to the approval of a new zoning ordinance. Staff recommends that the Plan Commission recommend approval of the proposed text amendment to City Council. And I can take questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Garcia. Any questions for staff? Mr. Fell.
Anecdotally, it's hard to project ahead on how tall a building's going to be with how many stories and what is going to go in it and that kind of thing. How open do you believe staff will be in the future to someone asking for a variance on a height limit of, for instance, their building just happens to want to be 68 feet tall? Is there because in a way, the height limits set are kind of arbitrary. So I'm just wondering if it's okay to set limits, but sometimes they should be negotiable. How negotiable will these be?
Well, I mean, you're always welcome to apply for a variance, but you have to have a special circumstance. So I'm not sure what the special circumstance would be. I'm not, I don't like to speak to hypothetical future conditions. I would recommend that if you think that 68 feet or 70 feet would be more appropriate and would give a little more room for the design professional to exercise their craft, then I'd suggest you propose that now versus relying on some future variance case.
Okay. I don't have a reason to propose them be different. I just the point is we're setting a limit on something in the future that it's kind of arbitrary, and somebody may want to have a variable, and there's a vehicle to do that if they need it. So.
Right.
Do you know by chance what the other tallest buildings are the buildings to the west?
Oh,
right.
Yes.
Do you know what the height of those?
Gregory
is?
Place.
Gregory Place.
Yes, and I had written those down. So it's kind of, so I pulled the original plans. They didn't show any the original case where those were created. There's no height given on the elevations. But I did use a tool that allows us to sort of measure vertical height from the oblique imagery. And it was, I think the tallest one may have been about 70 feet. But if you measure from different angles and And if you're not clicking in the perfect spot, you might get something shorter than that too. So I think it was probably between 60 and 70 feet are those buildings at Gregory Place.
Okay, and so the intent is kind of to try and match
It is,
that
yeah.
as what exists, okay. Any other questions for staff? So I had another question. Oh, go ahead, Mr. Rose.
I was looking for a definition of height and to what element of the building it's calculated. I see in 6.2C the mention of chimneys, towers, church steeples, et cetera. But otherwise, is it to the ridge of a gabled building and to the parapet height of a low slope?
So it's to the midpoint. If there's a sloped roof, it's to the midpoint of the roof. If it's a flat roof or if there's a parapet, then it's just to the height of the wall there.
Thank you.
So my question, there's no, for areas west of Lincoln, essentially, there's no northern bound, and I'm wondering if that creates potential problems, especially as we get north of University, because the University neighborhood currently crosses University and goes as far as the railroad line.
Right.
But, you know, in theory, someone could make an argument then at some point to go a little bit beyond that. And does it make sense to allow, 120-foot tall buildings in that area?
Right. Yeah, I was kind of thinking about that, and I think in practice, I think the only place that you'd be looking at. So sorry, this doesn't. Wait, does it? Yeah, there we go. So I think in practice, it would likely be limited to the area identified as University neighborhood. So you've got that sort of this little triangle area there, which I don't know if somebody is going to wedge a really tall building in there, but I suppose you could if the rules allow it. And then there's some other areas over here along University Avenue. So I guess the question is, does it make sense to have 10-story buildings along University Avenue on the north side? And potentially, if somebody wanted to make an argument of going even beyond the railroad tracks for a CMU, I suppose I suppose they could make that argument. So I was trying to be as simple as possible with the wording of the text amendment, but I don't want it to open us up to things that we don't want to see. So I guess that's a point of discussion.
The current height limit on the north side of University is 5 stories? Or
The
something
current
approximate to 5 stories?
Well, the current height limit is theoretically infinite because
So
it's
the FAR
it's
limit.
B3, but it is limited by floor area ratio, which is 4 in B3. So probably, you probably wouldn't see anything much taller than 4 stories.
Okay.
And just for a mechanism, if you wanted to limit it, I don't know if you'd want to limit it to 40 feet or 3 stories there. So I was going to suggest we just change the language so that it stops at University Avenue. So sort of this area is the only area with 120 feet tall. But then you'd need to figure out how you want to deal with that area. We could tweak it so that it would match what we're proposing for the southern area. If you think 5 stories would be appropriate up there, I think we could probably make that work.
Can you go back to the table?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I hesitate to try and do something like this on the fly, but
Right.
maybe we can pick it up in discussion and see if there are strong thoughts either way.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions for staff? All right. If not, as staff is the petitioner in this case, we will open up the public input portion of this hearing. If you'd like to address the commission, you can come forward, state your name, and sign in and tell us what you have to say. I'll remind everyone to please keep your comments relevant to the case under consideration. If you want to talk about something else, we have an opportunity later in the meeting for audience participation when you can talk about any topic that you'd like to for a limited amount of time. Anyone that wants to provide any input or comment on this particular case? All right, if not, we'll declare the public input portion of this case closed and go into discussion amongst commission and possibly entertain a motion to vote. So is there any discussion on this proposal?
I would only say that I share a little bit of your concern about the area west or, on University Avenue, but I don't think enough to change the language of the proposed amendment. So,
Yeah, I mean, I think whenever the CMU district doesn't currently apply to anything north of University, correct, Kevin?
That's correct.
Okay, yeah, so, I mean, if there was a proposal to rezone those parcels, we could deal with it at that point, I suppose.
Yes, that's a possibility.
I mean, that there is a check is essentially what I'm saying, that
Right.
it's not possible to have 120-foot buildings there currently, even with this change, so. Any other discussion on the proposal? Are we ready to make a motion?
I find it to be a common sense approach. I move that we adopt this proposal for a text change amendment.
All right, so we have a motion by Mr. Rose. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Fell. Any discussion on the motion? I too think this makes sense. I think it's, the first step of aligning the zoning ordinance with the newly adopted comprehensive plan, so it's good to see steps being taken to do that. All right, seems like we're ready to vote. Can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Fell,
Yes.
Mr. Rose,
Yes.
Miss Yu,
Yes.
and Mr. Allred.
Yes. Okay, that motion passes. Do we have a motion, or do we have a date for council on that one?
Yes, that should go to council on November 3rd, or sorry, committee of the whole, November 3rd.
Okay, great. So that brings us to our second related plan case with the change to the agenda. That will be plan case number 2511 M25, a request by John Cairns. Is that Cairns? Okay, sorry about that. On behalf of Farallon Capital to rezone 905 West Oregon Street from R6 high-density multifamily residential and 907 and 909 West Oregon Street from R5 medium high-density multifamily residential to CMU campus mixed-use zoning district. So we have a presentation for this one from staff.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Take it
So Yeah, so Fair Lawn Capital and the University of Illinois have been in discussions to develop 3 adjacent parcels. 2 of them, which have the 2 buildings you see here, are owned by Fair Lawn, and then one just west of these, off the screen to the right, is owned by the university. And they're planning to develop a 5-story mixed-use building with institutional and residential uses. Right now, this is a mix of multifamily zoning, and you cannot do a mixed-use building under the current zoning designations, but it would be possible under the proposed CMU campus mixed-use zoning district. To orient everyone, we're looking south from above. So these are the 3 parcels. So they're along Oregon Street, just west of Lincoln Avenue. There's Gregory Place. And so you've got these 3 parcels. The one owned by the university is vacant. That used to house a building that was used for the music program that was recently demolished because it had outlived its usefulness. The 2 apartment buildings, I've spoken to our building safety official. He says they're not in great shape. Like they're not they're not in great shape. So the existing land uses. So this site is residential. Also, the western portion is institutional. It's surrounded by. There's some commercial, some mixed use, and to the west in Gregory Place, and further west like Canopy Club, Bread Co. And then you've got Lincoln Avenue, and then West Urbana neighborhood to the east, and then you've got University to the north and to the south as well. So the plan development aligns well with the university neighborhood designation in Imagine Urbana. But the existing zoning doesn't allow for mixed-use buildings. So this shows the zoning. So this site is R6 on one of the parcels, and then R5, which really, in practice, even though those are supposed to be medium and high density multifamily residential, in practice with a mix of the parking requirements, floor area ratios, open space ratios, and required yards, it makes it difficult to develop those to very high densities at all. So again, the CMU district would allow for a mix of uses, but currently, pending the passage of the text amendment case you just heard. Currently, the CMU district allows buildings up to 120 feet tall or 10 to 11 stories, while Imagine Urbana, as we saw in the previous case, calls for 5-story max for this area. So we would recommend, now that you have recommended approval of that text amendment, we're going to recommend approval of this as well. I'm not going to go through the rezoning criteria, but I'd be happy to discuss any of them during the Q&A. But overall, we find that the request meets all 8 of the criteria for rezoning. So I just want to walk through a couple. Again, that's the site. Just wanted to show a couple of photos here before I wrap up. So this is the building furthest to the east. It's got parking underneath, and then 3 stories of apartments. And then the one to the west is a little. It has a few fewer units, but it's kind of a similar design. And then here's the vacant lot to the west. And then again, this is the view sort of looking east along Oregon Street. So the Plan Commission has the options to recommend approval or recommend denying the rezoning. And since you did just recommend approval of the text amendment case, we recommend approval of this rezoning. I'll take any questions.
All right, thanks, Mr. Garcia. Any questions for staff on this case? No takers? I'll ask a question. So this is kind of like a verbiage thing for the recommendations. I think essentially what we want to do, if we were to recommend approval to council, is that we want to recommend approval pending their approval of
Yeah,
the zoning
yes,
case.
actually, that's true, yeah.
Okay. So,
So I would phrase your recommendation similar to how it's written in the staff report. So something like, Plan Commission recommends approval of Plan Case 2509T25 to City Council if Council first approves the text amendment in that case.
okay.
Otherwise, we recommend denial.
Is everyone clear on the language of that? And we have that in the record. I think that's what I would go with. But-
You said otherwise and stopped the sentence.
Yes, I think I kept it going, but I trailed off. Yeah, so otherwise, Plan Commission would recommend denial since it would allow buildings
Buildings would be
much
too tall.
taller than Imagine-Urbana calls for.
Any other questions? Good. Ready to make a motion? Oh, sorry. Yeah, jumping ahead here. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Garcia. It's been a while since we've done this. Yeah, so at this point, we'll offer the opportunity for the petitioner to address the commission if you'd like.
I'm not John Cairns. My name is Tom Hagensick. I work for Fairlawn. I'm a senior construction project manager for them. I'm also a resident of Urbana. And the idea of this building is that it's a continuation of the type of mixed-use buildings to the west. So the intention is to do commercial space on the ground floor with parking, and then the second floor would be all dedicated to the University of Illinois for their School of Social Work, and then the 3 floors above would be apartments. I feel like it's contextual with its surroundings, and that it would have a hard time arguing that it wouldn't be an improvement from what we're looking at here in this photo. So, thank you. That's all I have to say.
Thanks. Are there any questions for the petitioner?
Yes.
Rose?
Would parking be at grade, above,
Yes.
below, all parking at grade?
I believe it is at grade. I'm sorry, I don't recall.
It's
It's
okay.
either below grade or at grade, but
Okay.
I believe it's at grade. No, I'm not sure. Can't answer that one specifically, sorry. We've gone back and forth, so I forget where we're at.
Could you sign in on the sign-in sheet right there?
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Absolutely, yeah.
For the record.
Let me see if I might be able to pull up the current plan here.
It's not that important.
Okay.
It's just that there was below grade in the current, and
Correct.
it raised that question for me of, I don't think it's particularly pertinent to the vote that we're going to be taking.
Okay.
I can tell you that we are challenged with below-grade parking in both those buildings. We have, as we commonly do in either that type of situation or ground floor parking, we struggle with the pipes freezing constantly, because it doesn't matter how much you insulate them, somehow squirrels get in and the most inopportune times, and then before you know it, the residents leave and they forget to turn their water on a trickle, and then, so no matter what, it'll be a challenge for us, I imagine, so.
Are there any other questions for the petitioner? All right, I think
Okay.
we don't need to, Mr.
Great.
Rose said he doesn't need to see that, so.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, so seeing no more questions, we'll open it up to the public. Again, if you'd like to address the commission about this case, come forward, state your name, sign in, and tell us what you have to say.
Good evening. My name is Matthew Bastian, and I am a resident of Champaign, but I have classes and I have a good friend who lives in a house across the street on Lincoln. So I'm very familiar with the area, I would say. I would like to come out in support of this proposal. I think that the fact that there's an empty lot in this area is unfortunate, and that I agree with the petitioner that this area could be improved greatly and could be much better, could fit the surrounding area much better if this was rezoned to campus mixed-use zoning. My only question would be so it's mixed-use zoning, so the first floor is available to other uses. Would this guaranteed be university use, or would this be open to other businesses or other uses in the CMU?
All right, thanks for your comment. We'll give a chance to the petitioner to address that in a second here. Or unless
Well,
the
I can
staff has
also
an
address
answer.
it from the technical side of things.
Sure.
So in rezoning cases, when a parcel is rezoned, it becomes open to any of the possibilities that are available in that zone. So typically when we review rezoning cases, we try and think of maybe like what types of uses might be allowed in that zone that could potentially be a nuisance to the surrounding area. So that's why we try not to tie rezonings to a specific project, which I think is why Mr. Rose, pointed out that it was kind of irrelevant, his questions about the design of the proposal, because you could have say a nefarious developer say they're gonna do one thing and show you some really beautiful fancy drawings, and then as soon as a property gets rezoned, do something totally different. So we need to be cognizant of that. So I'm glad you brought up that question.
That is all. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks for your comment. Anyone else that would like to address the commission? If not, we'll declare the public input portion closed and go into discussion amongst the commission and possibly entertain a motion to vote. So is there any discussion on this proposal? Mr. Fell?
My only discussion is I was employed to work on one of these buildings probably 10 years ago, and it was in really bad shape then, so.
Good to know. Yeah. Yeah, these pictures are betraying the condition. Any other discussion? Mr. Rose?
I think the motion should be made by someone who has the exact wording in front of them. Is that how it meshes with the previous case, I think is pertinent to the.
I agree, but I did not write that down. Did you by chance write that down, Mr. Garcia?
I don't think I wrote it down, but I could probably.
Oh, okay.
You can do it? Okay. Mr. Fell thinks he can do it.
I will make a motion, I think. I move that we forward plan case 2511-M-25 to the City Council with a recommendation of approval if the plan, if rezoning case, what's the number of the rezoning case?
2509 T25.
T25 is denied. This, we recommend denying the zoning case. If the rezoning case. if plan case 2509-T-25 is approved, we recommend approval of this request.
Yes.
That makes sense?
And approval and denial in that case would be by city council, just to clarify. Everyone good with that?
The intent is clear, at least?
Are we all good? Did you get that, Mr. Garcia?
I did.
That
Well,
back
yeah,
question.
read it back, please.
Yeah. I would kind of recommend you do it the opposite way, where you're recommending approval if approved and denial if denied. But if you want to, either way, it's the same. It's the same thing. But okay, so
Be positive first.
yeah, right. So, and see, I wrote it the way I wanted to hear it. So, but okay, you'd recommend approval of case 2511-M25 if, or sorry, I need to start with the denial. Okay. You recommend denial if 2509-T25 is denied, and you recommend approval if 2509-T25 is approved.
That seems much clearer than what I said, so I'm willing to go with that.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a second by Mr. Rose. Any discussion on the motion? All right, it seems like we're ready to vote. Can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Rose?
Yes.
Miss Yu?
Yes.
Mr. Allred?
Yes.
And Mr. Fell?
All right, that motion passes. Do we have a date for council on that one?
That will go to Committee of the Whole on November 3rd.
We'll have to keep an eye on their agenda order.
We'll make sure it's in proper order.
All right. Okay, this brings us to our final case for this evening, which is plan case number 2510 PUD 25, an application by Wes Taylor on behalf of PK Elledge LLC for preliminary approval of a residential planned unit development at 704 East Windsor Road in the R3 single and two-family residential zoning district. We have a presentation by staff on this one.
We do, yes. Okay, so this is a 4.1 acre site that's located on the north side of Windsor Road. It's just east of Meadowbrook Park, which you can see down here on your map. It is the former home of the Windsor Swim Club, which opened in 1966 and which closed in 2009 after 43 years due to economic hardship. After the swim club closed in 2009, local architect Gary Olson purchased the site, and in 2011, he gained approval to rezone the site from CRE, Conservation, Recreation, and Education, to its current zoning of R3, which is single and two-family residential. He also received preliminary approval for a planned unit development to redevelop the site with a mix of residential buildings. The following year, Mr. Olson received approval for a final PUD based on those preliminary plans, and that included up to 48 condominiums, which had 2 single homes, 3 duplexes, 4 fourplexes, 2 12-unit buildings, and a clubhouse. However, after the 2008 housing crisis and having difficulty getting banks to finance condominiums, Mr. Olson wasn't able to follow through on those plans. And in 2003, he received approval for a combined preliminary and final planned unit development. This time, it included 31 zero-lot line townhomes and 1 15-unit rental apartment building. So that's a total of 46 units. So as you can see here, the site again is zoned R3. It's surrounded by other R3 and R2 zoned parcels. It's across the street from county agriculture zoning. And the future place type for this area is neighborhood 1. And let's see, I will go to the site plan here. So the proposed development, it's residential. It would have 2 single homes in the northwest and northeast. It would have 10 duplexes and 2 8-unit townhomes for a total of 38 residences. These preliminary plans include, so there's 2 parallel north-south streets here, and then they would be connected in the middle with the retention pond there on the south side of the site in the middle. The proposed development would fill in a long vacant site, one that I field questions for yearly, and it's a site already served by infrastructure, and it would fill it with much-needed housing. It also provides several different types of housing, so that gives potential buyers and potential tenants more options to choose from. And it would be likely that these would be offered at different price points, so it would provide housing that's more affordable to a wider range of people than if, say, there were just a duplex development or just a single home development on the site. The Imagine-Urbana comprehensive plan, as I said, calls this area a neighborhood 1 place type, which is described in part as being mostly residential, primarily single houses, some duplexes, smaller apartments, townhomes, and accessory dwelling units may be interspersed. The PUD, or the proposed PUD, aligns well with the intent of the neighborhood 1 place type. It would also align with Big Move number 1, which is to address Urbana's diverse housing needs. Little Move 1.8, which is to allow a variety of housing types in every neighborhood at scales appropriate to each neighborhood. And Little Move 8.3, which is to prioritize development in areas already served by services and infrastructure. Now, when we evaluate planned unit developments, we evaluate them with respect to the goals in the zoning ordinance for PUDs, of which there are 9. And we find that the development is generally consistent with 4 of these goals. Number 2, which is to promote infill development in a manner consistent with the surrounding area. Number 3 is to promote flexibility in subdivision and development design where necessary. I forgot to mention that there are 2 requested waivers, which I'll get into in a minute, but that's what this one's talking about, kind of relates to waivers. Number 5 is to promote development that is significantly responsive to the goals, objectives, and future land uses of the Urbana Comprehensive Plan. And number 7, which is to coordinate architectural styles, building forms, and building relationships within the development and the surrounding neighborhood. Regarding those waivers that I just mentioned, the request includes a waiver for street width, which may not ultimately be necessary. This proposal shows street widths of 24 feet wide. Public streets, our manual of practice requires public streets to be 30 feet wide. However, it allows private streets to be 24 feet wide, which is what's proposed here. And the applicant has indicated that they'll likely keep these streets private, and the maintenance would be paid for through an HOA or something like that. So if the streets were kept private, the waiver would be unnecessary. But at this point, it makes sense to consider the waiver on the chance that these streets eventually become public streets. The other waiver is for lot width. The zoning ordinance requires a minimum of 60 feet for single homes, 45 feet for each side of a duplex, so 90 feet total, and 20 feet for each unit in a townhome building. So this site plan has single homes that are, one of them's about 55 feet wide, one of them's about 57 feet wide, so slightly narrower than the 60-foot requirement. The duplex lots are also about 82 feet wide, which is slightly smaller than the 90-foot requirement. I want to point out that in many neighborhoods in Urbana, you will find duplexes and single homes on lots that are on these size or smaller. The lots were created before our current zoning requirements for lot width were in place. So staff are in favor of granting both requested waivers in this case. And I did want to mention, because I forgot to mention it in my staff memo, but since 2023, we require applicants for planned unit developments to hold an open house. And the applicant held an open house here in this room a week ago tonight. And 3 people from the neighborhood came to that open house. So I'm just going to look at, so there were some concerns about parking or on-street parking. So all of these units, there's no waiver requested for parking. So all of these units would have the required amount of parking for the units. I imagine there would be some possibility of having on-street parking, although there would be quite a few driveways, so I'm not sure how much space there would be for that. They were curious whether the units would be for sale or for rent. And the applicant stated that his intent was to sell the duplex units and the single homes, but retain ownership and then lease out the townhome units. There's also a question, so you can kind of see there's a ridge right here that has some mature trees on it that provide some screening. So there was some question about whether those would be retained or not. There was a question about ingress and egress off Windsor, which I'd like to address as well, because our recommendation is that there only be one ingress egress, and that would be this one on the southwest. You can't see it from this. Okay, this shows it better. Yeah, these both show it better. So essentially, the existing egress is right here. Windsor Road people drive relatively fast on it. They use it as sort of a way to get across town. And it is designated as an arterial road with our roadway classifications. So the Regional Planning Commission has access management guidelines. So for a road of this type, you don't want more than one access point on this site is the upshot. And this is the best, sort of the southwest corner is the best place to have that access, because it's farther from Lynn Street to the east, and then it's, the next street is Vine over to the west. So we would like the plans to be adjusted to only have one entrance off of Windsor. Let's see if there are any other things from the... Yeah, I don't think there were any other concerns that I noted from the open house. Okay, so our recommendation is, I think I wrote it on here, maybe. Oh, let me go through some site photos. Sorry. Okay, so this is that existing driveway on Windsor Road. So it's a 4-acre site. So it's kind of it feels kind of big when you're walking out there because it's 4 acres. So there is still some pavement left over, and I think they've taken out most of that. You see some rubble back here from when they were taking it out. So this is sort of the west side of the site looking north. This is kind of looking northeast across the site. You can see those mature trees on the north side there that provide some screening. Again, looking a bit northeast, more east on that one. Looking north. This is from the middle of the site on the west side, looking east across it. This is looking southeast from the northwest corner. And again, just some views across. This is looking down towards Windsor Road. This is a good view of sort of most of the site looking south from the middle of the site on the north side. And then this is, here's some greenery on the east side of the site, and you can see the houses over there. And this is more on the east side of the site, and homes to the east, and some homes to the north and east. One thing I didn't include in these pictures, which I should have included, and which is part of what we're recommending, in the northwest. Here, I'm just gonna go back. Maybe we can see it on one of these other ones. In the northwest part of the site, there is I'll just go to one of these. So there's actually because the swim club was here. Let me do that. Whoops. Okay. Actually, you can see it on here too. There's an existing sidewalk here on the northwest corner that kind of comes in and used to give access to the swim club. I had Dan Rothermel, our city land surveyor, look into it, and even though on the tax parcel maps and all of these things that show parcels, it shows this parcel as being complete, there's actually a sidewalk here on a 10-foot right-of-way. It's right-of-way, it's not an easement, so it's still right-of-way. And it connects from Scoville down to the site. So we would like to see that incorporated into the final site plans as well. And you see this, so what you can't see here off to the north is there's an elementary school up there, only a few blocks away. So you can imagine if you have children and you're living here, it would be much easier for them to walk to school by going through here and going up Anderson. Also, this neighborhood has some interior sidewalks, which I think is a very cool feature. So if you had that sidewalk here, you could actually go up to the northeast as well through sidewalks through the neighborhood. I will get to my recommendation. Whoops. Okay, so the recommendation here is to recommend approval of the preliminary PUD with a couple of conditions. One is that the final development plans be in general conformance with the attached site plan, except that the site plan may be amended to reduce the number of automobile access points from 2 to 1 along Windsor Road. And number 2 is that the final development plans include a pedestrian connection to the existing sidewalk in the northwest corner of the site, and that connection ties into sidewalks within the PUD. I can take questions.
Thank you, Ms. Garcia. Are there any questions for staff? Mr. Fell?
I have several questions. The secondary access. When this PUD was around the last time, that secondary access was required by the fire department. Has the fire department been consulted in this? And it was a drive-over pave, grass pave drive-over thing? But they required it because they were worried that, there was going to be a fire at the end they couldn't get to. So I'm not going to approve this without the fire department being consulted and saying that one access is okay, as a condition of tonight's case.
Yeah, so we brought this to our development review team, which includes fire department, but it was at a more preliminary stage, I'd say. So I can certainly ask the fire department what they would want to see here.
I mean, it seems at least the street layout is kind of a similar concept to the previous one, and so I just would like to check with them. Okay. I'll keep going. Is this? It's a little hard, and I apologize, I wasn't able to attend the meeting last Thursday. It's a little hard to judge from, I'll say, an engineer site plan that doesn't have all the information on it, what is going to happen. So in terms of parking, I assume that all of these are going to they all have to have garages or the parking's not going to fit. And it
Correct.
looks like they can.
Yeah.
Townhome is required to have 2 parking spaces, and I can't tell how wide they are, but they don't look like they're wide enough to put 2 cars in. And if staff is okay with the plan, I'm okay, preliminary plan. I kind of would like justification of that. Are they required to put sidewalks in?
Yeah, we would require sidewalks.
Then a car will not fit between the sidewalk and the building. So their cars would have to go in the garage. They wouldn't be able to park in front of their unit. And they won't fit a car on the street. So parking, to me, I need a little more information on the site plan about how the cars are going to be handled, because there's not enough. And to me, from what I can see, it doesn't work. And perhaps it does, and I just don't have the information in front of me to show that. Last question is, in this zoning district, does the site plan, as they show it, conform to all the setbacks for the lots? Not lot size, just setbacks.
That's actually not something that I looked into, but
I mean,
I could probably-
again, I don't
yeah, I
know,
could tell you.
but a 5-foot setback, 2 duplexes with a 5-foot setback, 10 foot between them, that's pretty close. And if it conforms to the ordinance, that's okay. But if it doesn't, we need a waiver, or we need
Sure,
to
that's in
discuss
there,
it.
yeah.
Okay, that was it. Thank you.
Other questions for staff? Mr. Rose?
Yes, townhomes, it's zoned R3, if I understand, and the permitted uses are single-family and duplex, including 2-unit common lot line. Do we consider townhomes to conform with R3?
no. So typically, townhomes would not be allowed in R3 because they would be multi-unit,
Right.
more than 2-unit common lot line units. But when you do a planned unit development, you can ask for things that aren't typically allowed. So the PUD would give them the allowance to do that.
Thank you for that clarification.
That was going to be my question. Why wasn't that called out as something to highlight that they're getting relief from the requirements or the use
Yeah.
restrictions?
And Andrew's question about setbacks makes me think of, because I think waivers, and I'm going to look this up here, but I'm pretty sure waivers are really typically only to provide flexibility for the land development code. And I think that things like, if you're providing a site plan that shows setbacks that are, say, less than would be allowed, I'm not sure that you actually need a waiver for that. So I'm gonna read the actual.
Yeah, I don't think the issue is necessarily that whether or not it needs a waiver, but just that we and the public have been made aware that these are, because the PUD process is kind of, the applicant is asking for relief from the rules to be treated differently, and in exchange, there's things that they are supposed to provide to be granted that relief. And so knowing exactly what that relief is helps, I think, everyone weigh the benefit to the community versus whatever they're giving away in terms of what the rules are calling for.
So, and I might have to look elsewhere in here, but okay. Section 13.3E talks about its minimum development standards, and then number 1 underneath that is flexible zoning standards, and that says, except as otherwise provided herein, standards for lot width, building height, floor area ratio, setbacks, off-street parking and loading, landscaping and screening, and fences may vary from the standards established in this ordinance if justified by the circumstances particular to the site or the project and approved by City Council in accordance with the purpose and goals of this section.
Right. So I think it would be
Yeah.
good for us to know what those deviations from the standards are beyond just the waivers that have been requested, which
Okay.
which apply more to the, because this is going to go through the subdivision process, approvals process too, I imagine.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. So those will apply. Those waivers will formally apply in the subdivision approval process as well, right?
They would, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, could you just walk us through that process in general? So this is the preliminary submission, and then what are the next steps for this?
Yeah, so the next steps are, well, if the preliminary gets approved, then they would be free to apply for the final PUD at the time. Concurrent with that, they could apply for their development approval as well. So for the subdivision approval process. So that would require, so both the final and the subdivision approval would require Plan Commission to, and the final includes a lot more detailed plans. So the preliminary process is just to essentially see if it's worth a developer's time to, spend a lot more money to have finer plans created. So that requires like landscaping plans, elevations, more detailed site plans, things like that. So that process, or those processes could run in parallel, come to Plan Commission, and then ultimately go to City Council.
So I agree, and I think Mr. Fell mentioned this, like there's not a lot of, in this is more like a subdivision plat, and it's hard to really tell what's going on, particularly in terms of how it would respond to a lot of the goals and the overall purpose of the PUD district. So would we need to, if we were to approve something like this, would we need to have a condition that says the applicant needs to do more essentially to respond to those? Because so far what's been listed is that it is infill, but any by right development for this site would also be infill. So that doesn't seem particularly unique or, to necessarily respond to the description of the PUD purpose statement. And then it's a mix of housing types, and we just established that only 2 of those are by right, and then one of them is an exception to the rules. So, it just, I'm left a little wondering a little bit about what exactly, what are the details of this that would justify this, these relief from the rules, and maybe that could come later, but is that something we would need to specify in detail, or how would that work?
So it's not something you would have to specify in detail, and you don't actually, and I need to find the language of this, but you can apply for waivers at the preliminary stage. You can wait to apply for them at the final stage, because really the preliminary stage is intended to not, like you're not required to submit very detailed plans. It's sort of like just a kind of a sketch, like concept type thing, like here's what we want to do. So, I mean, there's a possibility you don't even need to address the waivers now, but knowing that the final layout will probably look similar to this, and knowing that lot width is probably going to be likely, I don't think there would be harm in that, or really in considering the street widths either.
Well, I guess I'm wondering, should we have expected to have a little bit more information about how it's like, for example, the purpose statement says that development, this is development for development that goes beyond minimum zoning development standards in terms of design, public amenities, innovative green construction, and implementation of the comprehensive plan. And it's not clear. Like the one thing that you've brought up that you'd recommend that is asked for is this, the extension or preservation of this trail, which wasn't mentioned, in anything as something that's being preserved, which is kind of the minimum that you would expect if we're thinking of this as something that should be going beyond, conventional approaches to development. It sounds like there were comments about the existing landscape that had been acting as a buffer and whether or not that would be retained. There's no description of any kind of intent to do anything with landscape buffering or something like that. So, yeah, and this is something we can get into more in discussion, I guess, too, but just trying to get a sense of how we could possibly proceed if there are these kinds of concerns. Any other questions for anyone else? I had some other questions, so give me a second to see what else I was going to ask.
I have another question for staff.
Yeah, Ms. Rose.
The retention pond, is that required here? I know how the drainage works into the Meadowbrook streams. Is it required, or is it considered an amenity here?
As I understand it, the engineer who worked on these plans thought that it would be required, and the size is pretty much what they think would be required here.
I had a question about the private streets. So I can't remember off the top of my head, but our land development code or manual practice, it doesn't say anything about discouraging or prohibiting private streets. That's not something that we're...
No, I think in practice we sort of discourage them in that we only allow them in mobile home parks or planned unit developments. We don't allow them anywhere else.
Okay, so planned unit developments are the exception for private streets?
Yes.
And then one other question was the north-south streets, the dead end of those, there's no, I mean, that meets any kind of like turnaround requirement that would exist?
I'm not sure. Those might have to be reconfigured.
Okay.
I can probably look that up real quick, though.
I think that's the only questions I had. Anyone else have any other questions for staff?
I'm still not clear that this initial approval and the final approval, the relationship, the initial approval is for the developer so they can test out if things will be working, so they can put more resource on develop a more detailed plan that will go through building safety review and all the other review. But will the final approval go back to the plan commission? I did not get that part.
Yes. So for the final planned unit development, that follows the same process. So it comes through plan commission and then to city council.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay. And I feel like I should know better at this point to add the requirements into the staff memos. So, so note to future planners, the preliminary development application really just has to have some basic stuff. So some basic stuff about owners of the site, the developers, a general location map, a site inventory that shows things like floodplains, wetlands. I didn't share that here, but there was a site inventory, a conceptual site plan, and any other information deemed necessary by the Secretary of the Plan Commission. So that's all that's required for the preliminary. And then in the final, final requires, again, a general location map, but then a specific site plan with locations of proposed structures, the circulation system for pedestrian, bike, and motor vehicles, location of existing and proposed curb cuts, off-street parking and loading spaces, et cetera, a landscape plan, location of any proposed open space, a preliminary stormwater plan, a preliminary utilities plan, the location of street and pedestrian lighting, conceptual elevations of all proposed commercial buildings and conceptual typical elevations of residential buildings, design, location, display area, and height of any proposed signage, and a development program that provides general information about the development, including desired residential and commercial tenants, housing price targets, estimated construction costs, and any other information that conveys that purpose and intent of the development, and a development schedule, and any other information deemed necessary by the Secretary of the Plan Commission. So the final has a lot of detail, whereas the preliminary has not much detail required.
Okay, so we should take it as this is our opportunity to provide feedback and recommendations about what we would like to see in the next submission. Were we to recommend approval for this?
I think that's a good tactic, yes.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions for staff? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
In that case, we'll ask the applicant to come forward if they would like to address the commission.
Please sign in.
If you could sign in. Sign in and state your name.
Hi, I'm Wes Taylor. I'm the owner of PK Elledge.
Welcome.
Hi.
Is there anything that you wish to say, or just there for us to ask questions?
Yes, there's a couple things I'd like to say. So when we came up with this, we actually had our engineering group that is going to do the infrastructure design for the development. They're the one who actually put this together. So we worked with them to kind of come up with a concept. We also did ourselves come to the DRT meeting at the city several months back when we considered buying the property. Got their initial feedback on what the best process to get this going would be, and it was at that recommendation that we did the planned unit development process. So I'll be honest with you, we've never done a planned unit development, so as far as all of the requirements and how this fits or doesn't, I can't sit here and tell you that I'm the best person to answer that question. I can just tell you that for the use of the parcel, no bigger than it is, because by right, we could do a single family or a two-family development. And as long as it meets the land development code, then we really don't have to ask for any waivers or things of that nature. So one of the reasons it was attractive to us to take this approach is because we've built a lot of homes in Urbana, and the way that we've been successful doing that is by trying to keep the homes at a more affordable price point. So when I say more affordable, I mean like in today's market, that's $300,000 to $325,000, somewhere in that range. When you get into a parcel this size, if we were to follow just the land development code where we had 30-foot wide streets and all the, and I believe these do meet the setbacks, to answer Mr. Fell's questions. They're 5 foot on the sides, so 10 foot between the buildings, which is the minimum for this, if I'm not mistaken, for this zoning. So those things are the main, do fit. The main thing that we asked for was the street width, because all the space that we can, gain within the development is an opportunity for us to put more units on there. which in turn brings the cost per unit down and aids us in being able to provide the price point for the housing that we want to be able to provide. So if we take this parcel and we put 16 homes on it, obviously, you know, the price point per house is going to be much different than if we can spread that out over 36 units or, you know, whatever this ends up being. The other thing I would say is too that we're open to whatever the city's input to an extent is that, I want to throw that disclaimer out there, to an extent, you know, to make this work for what we think the city wants and what also works for us. So this concept is what we came up with preliminarily, but like Mr. Garcia said, it was our understanding that that's what this was a preliminary design. So our expectation tonight was that this would be approved with conditions or approved as is or whatever the case might be, so that we can move to the next step of incurring the cost that it's going to take to actually, you know, get a final design that we can come back that meets all the criteria or whatever that next step is.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Mr. Taylor it was, right?
Yes.
Okay. No questions? All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. At this point, we'll open it up to the public. Again, if you'd like to address the commission about this case, come forward, state your name, and sign in. Tell us what you have to say. Is there anyone that would like to address the commission about this case? All right, if we have no takers, we'll declare the public input portion closed and now go into discussion amongst the commission and possibly entertain a motion to vote. So is there any discussion on the proposal? Mr. Fell.
First, I'll say that, you know, I've gone through this process a number of times, and this submission is kind of appropriate for this stage of what we're doing. And it's, right now is kind of our chance to say, here's what we need now to feel comfortable about it. So having done this, this is kind of the right path. Okay? Personally, I know in some of the opponents of this were a little concerned about the density and the narrower streets. To me, that's I'm not concerned about that. I don't think the density here is too high. The previous PUDs that we've approved here were considerably more dense than this. At least one of them was. So that part doesn't necessarily bother me, and the street width doesn't necessarily bother me either, because it's a self-contained kind of, I'll say, little community that doesn't connect to the rest of the infrastructure of the city. So it's not a place where, you know, a teenager's going to be racing through the street. So that part doesn't necessarily bother me. What does bother me, again, kind of it falls back a little bit to the density, is I can't understand from the information we have how they're going to incorporate all the infrastructure of the subdivision that they need to do. So that's what I need to see. I need to see how the sidewalks are going to be integrated here and how the driveways are going to fit, because my real concern is that it looks like on the duplexes they have a two-car garage, but it's going to take up a considerable amount of real estate to do that, to get a driveway there, and they won't be able to fit a car between the street and the garage. So extra cars are going to be parking on the street, and I don't see any way at all that they're going to get any cars into those townhouses. To drive a car in, you need to make a turn and point straight at your garage, and those are so close to the street, unless the entire thing is paved, it's going to be hard to get a car in there. So I'm not saying they can't do it. I'm just saying I don't have the information to know that it's possible, or that it's going to be solved appropriately. So that's one of the things I need to see, particularly how the cars are going to be handled on this site. And the fire department access. I want some kind of confirmation that they've been consulted about that.
So the things that you wanted to see are since you want to see, before we approve the preliminary, or the things you want to see when they are coming back with their final?
When they come, what I want to see when they come back is a more, I'll say, elaborate site plan.
For final?
Yes, for the final PUD approval, because one of the things that happens when we approve, Kevin, if I speak out of turn, stop me. One of the things that happens when we approve a PUD is the final approval is a general conformance to the site plan presented. So they can present all the elevations and plans of buildings they want to, as long as the elevations are totally irrelevant to what we're doing. The plan is only relevant if it conforms to the box that they showed us in the PUD. It doesn't have to be the same. So although I would like to see floor plans of these buildings, I don't think it's within my right to ask for that, because that's not something we approve. But we do approve conformance to the site plan. And so that, to me, that's particularly in this one, that's very important. And I don't have enough information to feel comfortable with it. Does that?
Yeah, I think what Ms. Yu is trying to clarify is, are you hung up with a recommending approval tonight on the preliminary, or are these things that you're asking for the final?
Those are things I'm asking for the final PUD. Right. I think what they presented us tonight is a general concept of what they want to do, and our job is to say we can support the general concept or we cannot, and if we, in either one of those cases, what do we need to see when they come back again to approve this for a final? They may come back again, and it's happened to me, with a more elaborate site plan, and we have more questions, and we won't approve it. We're going to ask for more questions. So it's not that they're going to come back with a plan that we either approve or disapprove. They have an opportunity to represent it again. So this is merely asking for more information, and if they give us enough information to feel comfortable, next time around we can approve it. If they don't, we can say, please provide us more information and come back again.
And just to clarify, before this would come back for the final, it would come to us for a subdivision plat approval?
Those could come at the same time.
Fine.
Yeah, and that's often, I'd say, preferable if time is of the essence, which I feel like with developers it always is.
Any other discussion, Mr. Rose?
Two concerns that I have. One is connection at the northwest corner. I think the pedestrian access for the whole site needs to be accommodated at that corner. I think that's a critical connection. Is the school, for one thing. But I'm also concerned about residents in that neighborhood on Scoville. I can certainly imagine if parking is pinched, that people might want to park at Scoville and walk the rest of the way. I think I would hate to see that be a sore point in the neighborhood, and I would hope that connectivity at the northwest is seriously addressed. The second thing is a matter that came up for discussion on Hope Village, and that is detention pond, retention pond, dry, wet, fenced, not fenced. It's a prominent element in the plan, and I would need more information there.
Yeah, I agree with what Mr. Fell and Mr. Rose have said. I'll go back to what I was bringing up about the sort of premise of PUDs as something that developers can pursue, and that they're getting relief from the rules. So someone can propose a by right development here, and they can follow all the rules. Someone comes in and wants relief from having to follow those rules. The code specifies things that they need to provide in exchange for that relief. And I don't feel that that's really been articulated yet, and I would hope that that is articulated more in the next submission. And that can range, that can be a variety of things. It can be including this pedestrian connection in the northwest. It can be, addressing concerns that Mr. Rose had about the design and the character of the retention or detention pond. Can that be something that incorporates something that's maybe more innovative, green construction, in a way that's different from, a giant hole in the ground that we see out in front of, big box stores or something like that. Particularly in the situation here where it's got such a prominent placement. It could include something that articulates the pricing, the price points, and how that's going to be something that addresses, the city's concern about, wanting to have housing at a variety of price points. So I think there's lots of ways that this can be addressed, but it hasn't been addressed currently, and so I would expect to see something that articulates how it's satisfying those beyond just being infill, which again, by right development in this site would be infill as well. Yeah. I mean, I think it's exciting. We're not trying to discourage the development here. I think it's exciting and encouraging that there's interest in someone to do something with this site because it has been vacant so long. So, yeah, look forward to, or hopefully this will be something that can be addressed in subsequent submissions, should we vote to recommend it. Any other discussion, Ms. Yu?
Yeah, I think I would say it's really good to see someone who's going to utilize that big piece of land right in the middle of the city, right across one of our most beloved park. And we really just wish that our developer can come back with a high quality development is what we wanted to see. So just looking forward to see you guys putting more thought and more attention into this, make it a good one for the final site.
Yes.
Because I just want to make sure that I'm on the same page with you guys.
Sure.
So, and maybe this is something that maybe I should just ask Mr. Garcia, but so is the discussion that you guys just had, is the purpose of that so that we understand when we put our final PUD application together that we know what you guys are looking for?
Yes.
Yes.
Or is the intention for us to go back through the preliminary? Okay.
Well,
That was my question.
I don't want to.
I know you
We have to vote still, so
yeah.
I don't want to put words in the mouths of my fellow commissioners, but were we to recommend approval of the preliminary, then what we've been talking about in the discussion would be, should be taken as guidance for you in terms of your resubmission for the final.
Okay. That was my question, because to come back through for another preliminary is kind of like doing the same thing twice, and then you know. So if we can address those things at the final, then that would be, we'd be more than happy to try and accommodate as many of these things as we can. So that was my only question.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any other discussion? Are we ready to make a motion?
Well, should we make a list of what concerns we have highlighted so far, if that's the pertinent information to go back to go for? If we were to approve, it would be in a way that highlights these concerns that we have. Am I understanding that correctly?
Some of the concerns are more general conformance with the purpose of the PUD. Some of them are more specific in terms of demonstrating that infrastructure and site design requirements like parking and sidewalks can be accommodated. I don't know if if we would, if we
Can
try and
we-
list it, we might not
No,
be
I think we knew
exhausted.
that concisely. We can just say that we want to see a site plan that has been, maybe not, at least preliminary, a subdivision plan for this lot that has been at least preliminarily approved by staff, because that's going to have sidewalks and streetlights and all that kind of stuff on it. And that will, I think, satisfy most of my questions about the site plan. I assume a subdivision plan, to the extent where they have the buildings on it, is going to include the driveways, the paved area of the site.
Issue?
Is that correct? A subdivision plan would, not really, because a subdivision plan is empty lots.
Well, the preliminary plan application requirements actually call for a conceptual plan that shows sidewalks and paths and things like that. So there were things that could have been included in this, but I would expect that they are included in the final.
Yes, I agree.
Ms. Yu?
I was just ask, can we bring up your recommendation from before so we have a place to start?
Oh, no, that doesn't do it. I thought I could hit end and it would go to the end, but.
So it sounds like we might want to modify the
Yeah, I
first
would,
one.
based on your discussion, I would probably modify this heavily.
Could we do this one condition at a time? And discuss it?
Sure.
Okay. Let's just take condition number one. As written, so maybe men reduce the number, upon approval of the local fire department head? I mean, I'm okay with that, but I want the fire department to say it's okay.
Yeah,
How about just if it meets requirements or something like that?
yeah, I'm just trying to think of how.
I mean, this would be something that would be looked at during the subdivision plat review, I would assume, right?
Yeah, yeah, it would be. Yeah, so I'm trying to think of how you might go about this and just add maybe, if you wanted to add a list of sort of recommendations of things that they look into, not a hard condition, but sort of like we're generally okay with this site plan, but we, would like to see these other things addressed in the final plans, including review by the fire department.
I would say we probably only need one condition, and we can wrap that second point into that.
I'm struggling with something because it's my point of parking, and I can't ask for a building plan, so I don't know where the cars are going in the building. So I kind of need a floor plan of one of these duplexes to know if they can fit a car there or not. I don't know if the driveway is on the part that's extending towards the street or is recessed back or. Can we?
Yeah.
I suppose we can ask for a enhanced site plan that includes the driveways on it.
Well, and I think that would be part of the final submission anyway, just based on the list of things that is required. But I guess if you're not okay with the conceptual site plan, if it leads to
Well, I think I will be
Yeah.
when it's presented again. I just want to make sure I'm going to be, that I'll have the
Yeah.
information I want on there. And I think it will. I just am trying to make sure it will.
Are the requirements for number of cars per unit fixed and not in dispute under the PUD?
I mean, the requirements are fixed for each type of unit, and I can go read those off. But typically, it's 2 for every. It's 2 for a single house. It's 2 for each unit of a duplex. I think it's 2 for a townhome unit as well. Andrew's shaking his head yes, so I'm guessing I remembered that right. So that's all fixed.
But again, that could be a waiver they ask for, correct?
It could be,
Okay,
and
so that's
like I
kinda
said
why we
earlier,
need to-
you can ask for waivers at either now or later. So that could be. But I
So
think oh, no,
this
sorry, go ahead.
recommendation does have the 2 waivers we already talked about, right? One is the side width waiver, one is the street width waiver.
Yeah, and I guess we should actually add that if you're okay with recommending those waivers, that you would probably add that as a condition as well.
Kevin, I'm sorry, a point of clarification I should know. I believe every time I've done this, it's been a preliminary and final at the same time. A preliminary goes to the city council, it doesn't come back to us, they approve the
It
preliminary.
goes to city
PUD?
council. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. And I think just historically, I think we're all used to sort of that combined preliminary and final. That's just kind of the way most of these get done. So, yeah, so I think we're all still kind of learning the process when they're done separately.
I'll try.
Go for it.
I recommend approval of Plan Case 2510 PUD-25, including the waiver for the street width and for lot width, with additional recommendation the petitioner verify with the fire department for access from Windsor Road, and that a more developed site plan is presented that includes all the subdivision requirements and paved areas on the property.
Well, I would just like clarification on when you would want that latter thing to
Oh, at the
happen.
final PUD submission.
Did you get that down that you can read back to us by chance?
Don't ask me to say it again.
I don't know if I did. Okay, yeah. I'll read what I've got here. Okay, so I have a recommendation of approval of Plan Case 2511-M25, including waivers for street width and lot width, and is it a recommendation that the petitioner get additional clarification regarding emergency access along Windsor Road, and that more detailed plans be submitted. Let's see, shoot, I can't remember what all the details were.
Site plan
Yeah, more detailed site plan.
that includes the subdivision requirements and areas intended to be paved additional areas intended to be paved on the site.
Site. At the final PUD submittal.
Yes.
How about the second point here? Do we want to include that?
Additional recommendation that the final development plans include a pedestrian connection to the existing sidewalk in the northwest corner of the site that connects that, and that the connection ties into the PUD sidewalks.
As written.
Yes.
I have another point to discuss before we send that in. Is with the retention pond. So it's a lot of people is going to live there, and there are limited green space. Just across street you got a giant park, but in the park, in the development area, there are limited green space. Is there a way, if it meets development requirement, incorporate some usable green space into that retention pond design? It's a discussion point for Plan Commission.
I can answer that question. The answer is yes, it's absolutely possible. The drawback to that, to the yes answer, is it's very expensive. You need to bury structures under the ground that have to retain that water and let it out slowly. So the infrastructure is very expensive to install. So I cannot say specifically. I didn't engineer the site, obviously. I can't say a detention pond, or is it detention or retention? They're very different things. I can't say it's required here, but it was required previously, so I assume it is. And it does make a difference whether it's a detention or a retention pond, because some are wet all the time and some are not wet all the time, and I don't know which it is. So we probably, and it doesn't say, so we would like clarification on that as well, probably.
Dry basin.
It's a dry basin, said the crowd.
So if it's a dry basin, is there a way to ask for it to be more like friendly for people to use? I do not know what a dry basin or just wet all year round pond's difference.
Well, it's pretty much what it says. So a dry basin fills up when it rains a lot and then drains out. So it's difficult to make very good use of it, because it's a place where it can't mow very well sometimes, right? It's a detention pond. So the difference is that it won't have water in it all the time. So we can ask the petitioner to look into other options I mean, part of the PUD process is we can say that a dry basin is simply not acceptable to us here, and he has to retain water a different way if we're going to approve it. I'm not sure that's a condition I would impose on the petitioner, but I think it's certainly within our social responsibility to ask him to look into that if we want to. And he's welcome to come back and say, yes, we considered that, but that will make the project financially infeasible. So if that's a condition that's imposed on our PUD, I'm sorry, we can't do it. But we can certainly ask him to do that.
Okay, I just want to get clarification on different options and the consideration goes along with it.
I think it's worth asking that it be looked into, or, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and look into options,
Is that a condition? Is it,
a recommendation, the same as the ones above.
Well, you're the mover.
I got to say it?
You got to say it.
With the request that the petitioner investigate alternative options to the dry basin.
More aesthetically pleasing, or how, what?
It's in the eye of the
Or
beholder.
is it aesthetics, or is it like dual, like it has recreational potential or something
Yeah,
like that?
more to the recreational potential because the yard and lots are very small for people who are living in that compound.
I like Mr. Fell's wording, just alternatives to it, because I would question the need for it. Can we not tie into existing sanitary?
Okay.
I'm pretty sure the existing storm sewer is across Windsor, which I think that's in the packet. It was not in my presentation. So I think that would be kind of expensive to tie into. But no harm in adding a request that they consider alternatives.
That's right. A simple request that they consider alternatives.
Looks like the storm sewer is on the same side of Windsor.
I'll go pull it up.
It looks like sanitary is also, but
That 12-inch, that's a water line. Water's on the other side.
I think I only included my memo here. Bear with me for a second. I can find it on our website.
it's on page 62.
I feel like I should cue the sound of a dial-up modem here. I don't know that the location of the sewer is going to change that recommendation, but it's just good to see. So this text here says water is across Windsor Road. Storm sewer is here. Okay, it was water that's tapping into Illinois American is across the street. So yeah, I guess there is storm sewer along Windsor.
And the storm sewer drops into the creek at Meadowbrook.
Okay, are we good with the motion? Should we attempt to read that back to us?
Well, I had already read the first part, and everybody seemed okay with it. So I'm not going to go to that one. And then the second part was as written. So then the third one is a request that the petitioner consider alternative options to the dry basin.
Okay.
Good.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Fell, second by Mr. Rose. Any discussion on the motion? All right, seems like we're ready to vote. Can we have a roll call, please?
Miss Yu,
Yes.
Mr. Allred,
Yes.
Mr. Fell,
Yes.
and Mr. Rose.
Yes.
All right, that motion passes November 3rd.
Correct.
All right, so that will head to council on November 3rd, the committee of the whole. Okay. That brings us to new business. No new business that I know of. Audience participation. Is there anyone who wishes to address the Plan Commission for 5 minutes uninterrupted on a topic of your choice? If so, please come forward and sign in. All right. Staff report. Do we have a staff report?
I'm just going to report a couple of things on the staffing front. We've got some candidates that we've been considering for a couple of open planner positions. I don't think I can say anything beyond that, but so that's pretty exciting. And then the other thing is this is my last Plan Commission meeting. So after 11 plus years with the city, I'm officially done next week. So it's been a pleasure. Been through a lot here. So it's nice to close out with 3 recommendations, all unanimously approved. So thank you all.
Well, thank you, Kevin.
Thank you for your service
Yeah,
to the
thank
city.
Thank you, Kevin. Learned a lot.
I think we've all enjoyed working with you, and you've helped the commission quite a bit over the years. All right, study session. I don't think we have a study session, which means that we are adjourned at 9:04. Thanks, everyone.
Okay.